Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lee with the Fantasy Football Consultants, ready to run down Week 8 in NFL DFS with full cash lineups on DraftKings and FanDuel. And let's get right to it with our cover boy, Bijan Robinson. He's $8,800 on DraftKings, but he's worth every penny because he gives you literally everything you want in an NFL DFS running back. He is this week a home favorite, 7.5 points against the Miami Dolphins. Yes, the same Dolphins who are dead last against the run. And this matchup, Atlanta has a 26 implied total. You love that. You love that Bijan Robinson, especially on DraftKings full PPR, gets involved in the passing game so much. So what a great start to our cash lineup. And before we reveal the rest of them, I want to give a good salute to you guys. You guys, once again, have really stepped up in an effort to support this channel by routinely liking the videos. And some of you are commenting. I want to get more people commenting about what they think. But I have a special request for each of you now. So if you've been in YouTube recently, you see they have developed something new, which is called hyping a video. So you guys all have the ability to hype a video for a small YouTuber to help spread the information, and that YouTube knows that, hey, this is a video we might want to recommend to more people. So how do you hype the video? The way I believe it works is you will smash the like button, and then once you smash the like button, hopefully the hype button should appear and you can hit that. What's great about it is it doesn't cost you any money. It's completely free. It's just your way to show your support of this channel, and I genuinely appreciate it. All right, let's get into finishing this lineup. Let's take a look at Derrick Henry to pair Bijan Robinson with at $6,000. This is criminal. He should not be this cheap. Now I know what you're thinking, but Eric, he has been very poor this year after week 1, and that is true. But let me tell you something about this Baltimore offense. The last 3 games or so, they've had a backup quarterback, and teams know that the Ravens cannot pass the ball. So they've been stacking the box. Now, it's not 100%, but I am hopeful that Lamar Jackson is going to be back. And I like this pick a lot more if Lamar Jackson is playing. They're coming off a bye, so the team should be fresh. They're at home, and they face the Chicago Bears. So again, we have a home favorite, 6.5 points, a massive implied total of 28 and a half against the 28th ranked run defense of Chicago. And I get them for only $6,000. This is insane. Love this. This is maybe my favorite pick, assuming that Lamar Jackson is playing. All right. Let's check out the rest of our lineup. We're going to continue to pick on Miami and get the number 1 targeted guy there in Drake London. Now, I have to say, Michael Penix has a bone bruise. He's day-to-day. We're not sure if he's playing, but I have no concerns, especially with this Drake London pick. If Penix doesn't play, Kirk Cousins, I think, will do a great job at getting London the ball. So either way, I'm excited to get London in at only $6,400 against just a terrible Miami defense. All right, so we're going to fill out the rest of our wide receivers with arguably the number 1 wide receiver on their team. London is surely a number 1 wide receiver, and Devontae Smith, well, he's been the number 1 wide receiver this year. He's done better than A.J. Brown. And the last 3 games have been impressive performances by Smith. It's obvious from the stats what he did from week 5 to week 7, and you might say, wait, what's going on? What about week 6? How can you say week 6 was good? Well, it's amazing. If you watch that game, Devontae Smith had about 5 yards away from anybody, and for like a 40-yard pass in the air, but he would have ended up being a 70-yard touchdown pass. and Hurts just simply overthrew him. And with that completion, all of a sudden, wow, you'd say, wow, he had another great game with a TD and 70 more yards and another reception. Anyway, the point of it is Philadelphia is opening up the offense more in the last three games, which we like. And we face a New York Giant team that defense, which is not good against wide receiver. They're 29th ranked. So at $5,900, we get another bargain here. I like it with Smith in this lineup. And then clearly the number one wide receiver on Baltimore at a paltry $5,400 is Zay Flowers. This is another pick in the lineup that really relies on Lamar Jackson being back and healthy. I'm not near as excited about this pick if Lamar Jackson is not the starter. But if he is, wow. Once again, we've got a below average pass defense in Chicago, and Lamar Jackson's number one targeted guy. All right. So let's go back to quarterback. So there was a lot of iterations that I did with this lineup, and I was adamant that I wanted to get Bo Nix. Now you could go down and go to a cheaper guy, but I wanted Bo Nix and because I want to follow our NFL DFS Master Class. Literally, he gives you everything you'd want in a NFL DFS quarterback. He is a home favorite by 3.5 points, ridiculously high implied total of 27. And folks, he faces the Dallas defense. I said this a little while back that I am going to make every effort to get at least one player against the Dallas defense each week, and I'm very happy that is Bo Nix. Now I know Dallas played well last week against Washington, but remember, for half the game they didn't have their quarterback, and for all of the game they didn't have their number one wide receiver in Terry McLaurin. They didn't have their number two wide receiver in Deebo Samuel. And they didn't have their number three wide receiver in Noah Brown. So let's cool the jets on the Cowboys all of a sudden being a good defense. I'll go with what's happened all year. They're the last ranked defense against quarterbacks. Happy to get Bo Nix in the lineup. Remember, the nice thing about Nix is he is going to supplement his passing with his legs, as he's always one that's going to be taking off from time to time to pick up some yardage. All right, so this lineup is starting to take shape. We need to look at our tight end. So actually, I'm going to do tight end last because there's a couple of options I want to go with. Okay, in my flex position, I've got DeAndre Swift at only $5,900. One word of caution: the rookie behind him on his own team at running back, Kyle Monangai, started to get some carries. A lot of it was in garbage time, but some of it was even as early as the first and second quarter. So just know that Swift is going to cede some carries to him, but Swift is still going to be the lead back. And he's the lead back in a very good matchup facing the Baltimore Ravens, 31st ranked against the run. So I'm happy here getting Swift in the lineup, but I just want to make sure you're aware of the rookie's presence. And we're going with the Giants defense as a punt defense. If we take a look at the cheap defenses, remember the Giants just beat Philadelphia, and their defense was a very big part of it. I just like the Giants defense a lot more than the Titans, which I have no interest in, and I actually can't afford any other. Well, actually, in theory, I can. You can upgrade to the Panthers or Dolphins, and Jets and Saints, but are those really upgrades? I suppose the Saints are in line, especially if I know Mike Evans is out for Tampa Bay, but if Chris Godwin is also out, maybe you go with the Saints. But I wanted to talk about a pivot, and to do that, I need at least $100. So I don't think the Saints are much of an upgrade over the Giants. So I'm fine keeping the Giants. So let's talk about tight end. At tight end, we need to save some money, but we got a couple of really good options. And one of the reasons we're getting these really good options is because what is going on around that team? Look, Dalton Schultz is the starting tight end at Houston. That's not the question. The question is how big a role is he going to play in the passing offense? And that's directly related to the other options on the team. And last week, Christian Kirk was out. And you see the bump up of the action that Schultz took. 9 receptions out of 10 targets. Also, toward the end of that game, Nico Collins got a concussion and was out. So here's the thing. I like this pick more if one of those guys are going to be out again this week. They're both listed as questionable. It's something you're going to need to follow. If both of those guys are playing, a really good pivot away from Schultz at just $100 more is Cade Otton. Once again, it's the same thing. Cade Otton is the starting tight end. There's no question about that. The issue is we already know now Mike Evans is out for the rest of the year. What we don't know is if Chris Godwin will be available. Godwin was out last week, and once again, Cade Otton was the beneficiary as they just didn't have much else to throw to besides Emeka Egbuka. So they were peppering Otton with targets. If Godwin is out again, I like Otton as well. So we're going to have to compare and contrast. If Godwin's out, I think I bump Otton up. If those other receivers on Texas are playing, or if Godwin is playing and those other guys are out, or one of those other guys are out for the Texans, then I would lead to Dalton. All right, folks, that is my cash lineup for week 8. Tell me about it in the comments. What do you think? All right, folks, let's move over to FanDuel and check out that full cash lineup. And guess what? We're going to start off our FanDuel lineup the same way we started off DraftKings with Bijan Robinson. Now, there was a big decision I had to make. Do I want Bijan Robinson or do I want Jonathan Taylor? And you know what, folks? I decided I want both. So not only is Bijan Robinson in the lineup, who I already talked about on DraftKings, but let's bring Jonathan Taylor in the lineup. So Robinson is $10,000. Taylor is $10,200. So the fun part of the rest of this video is how in the world am I going to fit the rest of this lineup full in with $60,000, given that I've spent now over a third of it on 2 guys, right? So let's start bragging on why we love Jonathan Taylor so much this week. Folks, he's in hard to believe, but he's in a better situation than Bijan Robinson. He is a home favorite like Robinson, but he's a 14-point favorite, 2 touchdowns. His implied total is even better than Bijan's. Bijan is a very good 26. Jonathan Taylor's is 30.5. You don't get implied totals often over 30 points. And maybe that's lowballing it because when Indianapolis played Tennessee at Tennessee, they scored 41 points on them. So it's just, and we face a Titan team that is one of I think the worst team in the NFL. And I know the Jets have not won yet. But their one win was a gift given to them by Arizona. And not only are they a bad team, they're a bad defense. In fact, dead last ranked overall defense and second to last in both rushing and passing. All good news for Jonathan Taylor, who obviously does a lot of his damage on the ground, but also does some in the air. And look what Jonathan Taylor did to the same defense earlier this year. 17 carries, over 100 yards, 3 touchdowns for 34 fantasy points. So Bijan Robinson and Jonathan Taylor, you might wonder, can I put anybody good? Well, guess what? We're going to put somebody good at quarterback. We're going to go with his running mate, so to speak. Daniel Jones as our quarterback. So a lot of the reasons that I want Daniel Jones is what I just said with Jonathan Taylor. He's facing just a great opponent, right? I've talked about how bad they are in the air and on the ground. And look, if we know that they're going to score a lot of points, implied total of 30.5, you just know that it's going to be partial. It's got to come from Daniel Jones and or Jonathan Taylor. I say and because I'm hoping a dump off pass we can score with both of those guys. So there we go. So let's take a look at our accounting here. I know it's going to be pretty scary. So we spent a lot of money on those three guys, but I'm still going to spend some good money to get Emeka Egbuka. Boy, this rookie has been impressive this year. And with Mike Evans now out for the year and Chris Godwin has been out, maybe he comes back. I don't care whether Chris Godwin comes back. The number one wide receiver on this team is Emeka Egbuka. And he's got a really nice matchup playing in the dome against the New Orleans Saints, who, I'm being kind here, have a below average defense. The defense is really not good. So that's good. He wasn't cheap at $7,500. So I'm gonna bring in at wide receiver someone we already talked about on DraftKings, Devonta Smith, and then to save us some money at $4,500, let's get in Jalen Noel. All right. Jalen Noel, as you see, he's so cheap because he hasn't done very much this year. But he's a rookie, and as the season goes along, they're going to get more confident in him. But I don't want to wait for that. We want them to have confidence in him because they have no other choice. So watch the news. He had no other choice because Nico Collins and Christian Kirk have been injured. Just in the last game, Christian Kirk missed it. Nico Collins got a concussion. So you want one of those two guys out, so he's definitely a starter. If just Christian Kirk is out, that's great because Nico Collins should garner a lot of the attention, and he's coming off a concussion. If you remember from our NFL DFS Master Class, players coming off a concussion historically have not done as well as they normally do in that first game back. I do think that we would have to ditch this pick if both Christian Kirk and Nico Collins are deemed healthy. Then I will go somewhere else. We probably need to reconstruct the lineup, which probably means we may need to give up one of our two-star running backs. But let's go under the assumption that that won't happen. So if that's the case, we're good with Jalen Noel. We still are in a situation that we got to spend less than $4,500 to finish these last three guys. So I left it a little bit in mystery because you still might be knowing how in the heck am I going to do it? I'll tell you how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it by going double tight ends. And I'm going to go with Dalton Schultz at, let's see where he is, at only $5,100. I talked about him on DraftKings. Again, this is assuming Nico Collins and Christian Kirk are out. Well, at least one of them are out. And then we have two of the major weapons that CJ Stroud has to throw to. And then double down on tight ends in our flex at Harold Fannin Jr. So last week, David Njoku was out. Even if Njoku plays, Harold Fannin is still getting plenty of looks, but I just like it more if David Njoku continues to be out. And then finally, let's take a peek at, we have $3,100 left. What on earth are we going to do at defense? We've got two choices. We got the Saints or the Cowboys. Look, I said it in the DraftKings. I'm not sold on the Dallas Cowboy defense. They did well last week, but that was with Washington not having any of their three top wide receivers, and their quarterback got hurt mid-game. So I'm going with the Saints. I have no problem if you want to go to Dallas, but I'm going with the Saints, especially with the prospect of Chris Godwin out, and we know Mike Evans will be out. All right, that's my cash lineup. I'm really curious what you guys think. Do you like this build where we basically went two superstars? Because that did limit us to a lot of the things that we could do with the rest of the lineup. But I personally believe in these guys. Look, if either of these guys do poorly, that's going to really hurt this lineup. So love to hear what you think. What adjustments will you make in this lineup? And don't forget, please hype this video if you haven't yet. If you don't see the hype button, click the like button, and hopefully you will see it. And until next week, where we take a look at week 9, take care, everybody. Be sure to smash that subscribe button on the way out.